With this being the 41st anniversary of this horrible crime taking place, I would at this point in time like to reveal the fact that our victim has been identified.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Exploring the Unsolved with Melissa, where we take a closer look at the unsolved true crime cases and mysteries that refuse to give us answers as we continue to search for the truth. In tonight's episode, we're looking up who killed Titi, the Sherri Jones case.
Subscribe.
More than 4 decades. The Walker County Jane Doe. Tonight we know who she is.
On November 1st, 1980, a truck driver discovered a naked teenage girl laying by the side of Interstate 45 north of Huntersville, Texas. She had been beaten, strangled, sexually assaulted, but had no identification. Authorities labeled her a Jane Doe, and for decades, the question still haunted investigators, whole case team, and a grieving family. And who killed her? Now, after more than 4 decades later, in recent 2021, she was finally identified as 14-year-old Sherri Ann Jarvis from Minnesota, known to her friends as Tati, or Sherri Jones. But her identification did not bring full closure, and the killer remains unknown. Tonight, we will trace her early life, examine the crime scene, explore leads and theories, speak to those who chased her story for years. To understand what happened that night, we must know who Sherri was. Sherri was born on March 9, 1966, in Stillwater, Minnesota. She was vivacious, musically sharp-witted, outgoing. By her early teen years, Sherri faced an uphill battle. She was removed from her parents' custody in 1976, placed in foster care while awaiting a juvenile hearing, and tensions grew.
She always loved music, always had a song in her head. She was smart, street smart, and a survivor.
In March 1980, she ran away from her hearing. She and her 2 sisters made their way to Green Bay, Wisconsin, but when the sisters decided to return, Sherri left them behind and ventured further. By 1980, she had written from Denver, Colorado to her family, explaining her frustration about being held in custody, and she said she's attempting eventually to come home.
After that, the trail goes cold until the fatal events of Halloween and November in Texas.
Locals would later recall sighting of a teenage girl in the region in late October 1980. The girl claimed she was heading to visit a friend in the now defunct El Valle prison farm. Witnesses included the manager of a South End Gulf station, who recalled the girl asking for directions and lying about her age. A waiter who briefly spoke to her mentioned her apparent nervousness. 2 employees at the Hitch Post truck stop who later said they seen a young girl matching her description lingering near trucks. Tragically, as years passed, all the witnesses died, making possible follow-up interviews virtually impossible.
We pieced together bits of their statements. She asked for directions to Ellis Prison. She seemed alone, trying to hitch rides. It was a fleeting window of time.
But what is the El Paso prison farm, and why would a runaway teenager in Texas mention it? Some speculate she might have known someone incarcerated there. Others believe she merely hoped to reach it as a landmark to hitch toward. Investigators submit she accepted a ride from a passing trucker or hitchhiker, likely the last human link to her life. At approximately around 9:30 a.m., a semi-truck driver pulled over and found the girl's body on the shoulder of I-45 north of Huntsville. She was naked except for a thin gold necklace with a pendant. Elsewhere nearby laid a pair of shoes, red wedge platform sandals, no identification and no belongings. She'd been roughly dead for around 6 hours and she was transferred to the coroner's office for an autopsy.
She showed extensive blunt force trauma. The cause of death was strangulation, but the injuries told a further story. There was a deep bite mark on her shoulder, and evidence she had been assaulted internally. A strand of twine was lodged in her vaginal cavity. Some signs of force, but sadly no intact biological evidence to definitively prove rape.
Because of the decomposition and the nature of the attack, the authorities could not convincingly say she was conventionally armed. But no seminal fluid was found. Her dental health offered a clue, which is well aligned with possible felons because it was someone from a middle-class upbringing with access to decent dental care. She had light brown hair, possibly in a wig, hazel eyes, pierced ears, though no earrings were present at the time, painted toenails, and weight of normal weight range, and no tattoos. She was buried in 1981 in an unmarked grave for identity unknown, or thumb before DNA extraction, genetic genealogy analyzing. Now, for those of you who don't know, genetic genealogy is basically when they're going to take a person's DNA, see if they can match it to relatives to narrow down a potential ID match. This happened in several cases, like the Golden State Killer, for example, was thought. So they'll have my DNA, but they don't know who I am. They're going to take my genetic DNA and match it to relatives of mine, my aunts, cousins, relatives, you name it, in hopes to narrow down a potential who I am.
Over time, the case stalled. DNA technology was nascent. The investigators floated theories. She was killed by a rogue trucker, a hitchhiker, or even someone who picked her up intentionally. Some thought the brutality suggested more than a random act. In 1999, her remains were exhumed to attempt DNA extraction and more forensic testing.
We always suspected the identity would be the breakthrough, but for decades, samples degraded. We had skeletal remains, tissue blocks, but no match. By 2020, advances in forensic genealogy offered renewed hope. The Walker County Sheriff's Office contracted Othram Inc. to perform DNA extraction and genealogical analysis.
After months of painstaking work, a usable DNA profile was built, family trees were constructed, and relatives identified. In November 2001, their Jane Doe was publicly revealed to the public to be 14-year-old Sherri Ann Jarvis, also known as her friends as Tati.
We lived in bewilderment every day. We never stopped hoping she'd come home. Now that she finally has a name, at least we know she wasn't forgotten. Yet, even with her name restored, the central question endures: who killed her?
Investigators and armed sleuths have advanced in two main theories. Both remain speculative. So as of right now, there is no concrete evidence to say these two definitely did it, but they are the two main suspects we're going to talk about here. The first suspect was Henry Lee Lucas. Henry Lee Lucas was a self-styled serial killer whose broke confessions recantation club many unsolved cases. He claimed responsibility for hundreds or even thousands of murders, though many confessions are believed to be false or exaggerated. Some allege he spoke of having committed the murder in this area. In true Lucas fashion, confession may have been attempted to attract attention or confuse authorities. Investigative journalists and critics have long questioned his claims. Some evidence suggests that Lucas was a fed crime scene detailed by law enforcement. Communication, his confession contradicted the facts. Traveling distance, time, location, you name it. Because no credible physical link or contributing corroborating evidence has tied Lucas to Jarvis. This theory remains tantalizing but unproven. Now, theory 2 is trucker, a hitchhiker, or a stranger in transit. A working hypothesis of many detectives that Sherri accepted a ride from someone like a trucker or traveling stranger an hour before her death. The brutal sexual assault and twisted crime suggests a perpetrator with control, opportunistic but violent. Some speculate the killer may have been a woman, and a pair of people, a male or female team. The idea, by appearing less than threatening, a female comic may have lured a runaway girl into false sense of safety, but this speculative is not backed with strong evidence. There's no evidence that that there's more than one killer. We don't know until proven otherwise. So if it is female killer solely, she most likely lured to gain her trust. If it's a pair, the female was most likely used to lure Sherri into safety, and once she got her alone, before the pardon repaired, and that's when her horror began. However, without a direct DNA match, eyewitness testimony, confessions with supporting facts, the case remains open. Investigators today leverage the names and genetic leads to re-interview old suspects, seek travel records, check tracking law, and compare DNA databases for suspects. Sherri Ann Jarvis, or in technically Sherri Jones, aka TT, is no longer a Jane Doe. She had a name, a path, and a life that was rejected far too soon. Though her family and investigators who couldn't judge the truth, her case is not closed. And now I'm going to tell you my theory. My theory is that Sherri was killed, decided she was most likely going to hitch a ride. She took a ride from a stranger, and despite her street smarts, she found herself in a situation she wasn't prepared for, and ultimately meant her demise. I think she did. I don't think she knew her killer. I think this is a random opportunity that presented itself, and it ended in Sherri Jones losing her life. This killer may have struck again. If this person's a trucker, he has victims in other states. But at the point, this is only my theory, and only time will tell if it's proven correct. If you see something, remember, a single witness, a forgotten detail, a trace of evidence could be enough to bring justice after all these years. If you have any information on Sherri Jones's case, or you believe you have information that could lead to an arrest or conviction of her killer, we urge you to contact the proper authorities. Thank you for turning into this week's case. If you like what you saw, subscribe. If you have any true crime cases you would like us to dive into next time, leave a comment down below. And until next time, stay safe and remember, justice is long, but the truth will always reveal itself.